But I want to back up a little bit. A few years ago, I was asked by some folks in Central District, because nobody could say no to Ray Wallace, and so she asked me to come to a Central District event. I think it was their fall celebration. I think it was here at St. Luke's. Asked me to come and share my story, and I was just like, share my story. I'm not quite sure what she was wanting on that. So in preparation for this, I went back and pulled that information back out to kind of review what I shared a few years ago. And it's interesting whenever you go back and look at those things you wrote a few years ago and get a little additional insight. So I won't repeat that one, I promise. But there were some things from that are still part of my story, and talk about how United Methodist Women has emboldened me and also given me a little bit different insight as I reflect on some things in my past. So many people in this room, were born into the church, and others may not have been born into the church. So I do want us to consider that and think about that. I wasn't baptized until I was a college graduate, and that's very uncommon because most of the time, if you don't reach people before they get to college, you're not reaching them until much later. So as a new college grad, I was baptized and went to church, and then I faded away a bit again. And then, you start thinking about, but how did Felicia get to UMW? So that's the path that I'm going to focus on today. You start looking back in your life, because our lives are building blocks. Each thing building on the previous thing, and you change one thing in that history, you may have gone a very different direction. And so you start thinking about, how did I get here today? What building block shifted me to this space right here? So you start thinking, and I go, well, maybe it was this, and I'm like, no, because that caused that, and that's how I got there. So then you keep going back a little bit more. Well, maybe it was that put this in place for me to go here, here, here. So really, I started thinking about things a lot, and I'm sure many of you know that you have experiences in your life that you would never have chosen. Ever. You would not have chosen. But whenever you really go back to say, how did I get to this space, it did take that experience to get to the next one, to the next one, to the next one, and then to get to this space. So that's what I want to focus on. So back in 2008, both of my parents were diagnosed with metastatic cancers a month apart. A month prior to their diagnosis, I had finished my family nurse practitioner program. So I was very smart in my family. I knew more than I could have been dangerous how much I knew. And, of course, then I'm the medical professional of the family and the only one with a college grad, so then I really needed to take the responsibility of making sure my parents went to the right places and saw the right people and that their care was coordinated as it should be. Fast forward just a tiny bit, I went through my divorce. Wouldn't have chosen that. Went through my divorce. My divorce is what led me to move to Indianapolis. So you see where I'm setting the scene now. So I moved to Indianapolis and I landed on the south side of Indy. At the time, purely simply because I had a friend who had a furnished home. She had moved in with her fiance, so I had a furnished home available to me to live in. It happened to be in Southport. Sounded good, the rent was right because she was happy for me to just bring in her mail and do her yard work. And as a newly divorced person, it was nice to not try to figure out where do I want to live, what kind of lease do I want to do, or get an apartment. So I'm in Southport, and I'm thinking, I think it's time for me to get back into the church because I'm a pretty lost, broken person. Recently buried both my parents and also went through my divorce. And now I'm living in a new town. So I started looking around for churches, and there was one just like a block and a half from my house. Shocker. And it happened to be a Methodist church, and so I thought, well, I'll go there and check it out. So I went there, went to check it out, and lo and behold, one of my high school classmates from 100 miles from there, she and her husband were there worshiping in the back row. And they were in the back row because they have children in the nursery, and if they needed to make a quick escape to go save one of the nursery workers from their child, then they were able to do that. So you all know what I'm talking about on that one. So I walked in, and there were Tim and Ann, and they welcomed me, and they were like, I cannot believe you're here, and I couldn't believe it either. So to be there, I didn't look for another church when I lived in Indianapolis. I knew I'd already found my home. So church, check, found it. It found me, and I was settled in. So there was a very special lady in the Southport church that kept inviting me to her darn UMW events. And I couldn't figure out why, because you all know I don't cook. I mean, people who know me know I don't cook. And United Methodist woman, that's what that looks like. You're supposed to be cooking, right? And so I like to eat, I like to taste test, but I was not a cooker. And frankly, I didn't have time. I was newly back to work. I had taken a 6-month leave of absence because of my parents' illnesses and deaths. Newly divorced, all of those pieces. I was like, who has time for this UMW thing, right? Who has time? So Sandy Tilden at Southport United Methodist invites me to her home for her circle's holiday meeting. That meant food. But I was the guest, so that meant I didn't need to bring food. So they told people there is going to be food here, there's going to be fellowship, and there's going to be this new girl named Felicia. And I'm like, oh great, the 3 F's, right? I'm like, that's great. These women were very active in their local ministry, and they gathered up supplies for the better indie babies, and they did items for the Lebanon School for Children. They contributed and organized and staffed funeral dinners. They did backpacks for school supplies for the local school areas. They talked about state projects at their meeting, and they were collecting things for Indiana Conference, different types of things that needed to go out to the Midwest Distribution Center, and all these, to be prepared for national disasters. And I was fascinated. I didn't grow up in the church, let alone a Methodist church, and I didn't know what any of this stuff was, but these women were working. They were busy, and they were excited. So it wasn't just they were busy, they were excited about what they were doing, and that was kind of contagious, but I'm still not figuring out why they have me there. Because I was like, I know I've got some energy, but at that point in my life, I was kind of tired. So I was trying to figure out, what are they wanting from me? And I think that happens a lot when you invite women into your circles and your meetings and your activities. Sometimes people will be skeptical. What are they wanting from me? Okay? And so the invitation is crucial, absolutely. But understanding the intent is also important. So, I'm trying to figure this out. I'm like, I've got a full-time job. I just finished my doctoral studies. Or I was a doctoral student at the time. I'm a new divorcee, recently back to work. So who has time for this, and what do I have to offer? I didn't feel like I really had a whole lot to offer. But they had heard about what I was going to be focusing my doctoral work on, and they really wanted to help. I'm going to let that sit there for just a moment. They invited me as a guest to their holiday gathering because they wanted to hear about what I was doing in my doctoral studies, because they wanted to help. Okay, I was hooked. They hooked me at that, because I'm thinking, what do they want from me? So this was about 9 years ago. I was 9 years younger, I had less gray. And I was a busy woman. I was trying to seek out ways to contribute my gifts to the church. But I also knew I was a very busy person, and back in doctoral school, I was trying to figure that out. I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to be active in my church and make this all work. We only have 24 hours in a day. But they knew that my doctoral studies were focused on the role of the nurse practitioner in the church, in the parish nursing community, and in health ministry. So what my project was for my doctoral program was to assist patients and families in coping and communicating during difficult medical times. Overwhelming diagnoses. We all know about those, don't we? We also focus on adult learning, stress and coping. So I had come up with a new diagnosis toolkit, talked about a bag with a pen and a notebook and a tape recorder, tips for appointments, medication list forms, provider medical test information, a calendar. And these ladies said, how can we help? And I'm like, I don't know, it's a lot for me, but I don't know how you can help. And they're like, well, let's break it down. And then I'm just like, let's just break it down. They're like, we can make these bags to put those in. All that stuff, we can make bags to put them in. Okay, yeah, that's kind of nice. We can actually even collect the supplies for you. There are pens and paper and stuff like that. We can collect that stuff. We can recycle our printer cartridges for the things that we don't collect, so that then you can take that to Staples, cash them in, and have money to buy the other supplies that go to these kids. Oh, okay. And then lo and behold, we'll write a prayer note to stick in the bag, so that when people are going through these doctor's appointments and all brighten their day just a little bit. Throw in a little extra agave in there and I'm all set. That's how it happens, guys. That's how it happens. It was amazing. So they asked me, we want to help you. Okay, so they helped me with that. But what I really needed help with, I'm trying not to pull a Victoria right now.
Bring it in time.
I needed fellowship. I needed women in my life. I needed mothers, I needed aunties, I needed sisters. The biggest gift that these women gave me, they were interested in me as a person. They wanted to invest in what I wanted to do. The questions they asked me were, what's the passion? What are you interested in? How can we come alongside you and move this forward? That's how we embolden women moving forward. And many of you are so good at that. So good at that. So asking the young woman, is there something that you're already interested in that I can help you with? Such an amazing invitation. And when you hear about that, you invite them to come share it with your other women. And you all get excited together. It's an amazing thing. How can your UMW sisters help you? What a great invitation. What a great invitation. You have to get to know people to be able to ask that question. You do. You have to know people to do that. But then they say, and there's opportunities that exist within our organization to help you too. So in summer of 2014, I was on a Young Women's Scholarship to Mission U for a Saturday sampler. And many of you know what that is. So, I couldn't go during the week. I'm a working person. I'm a single woman with a paycheck that goes to pay bills quickly. And so my local church made sure that we sent in the form for me to be able to go on scholarship to a Saturday sampler. So Ann Bunch, many of you know her, she came up to me and she goes, so I hear you're a techie, I hear you have some special skills and things, and so we're looking for a communications coordinator for Indiana. Ann might have been on committee on nominations, right? I don't know, was she on nominations or was she just trying to find a techie? I'm not sure. She was communications coordinator. She was trying to find her successor. She's like, you got a computer? I'm like, yep. You know how to run it? I'm like, yep. You know how to turn it on? Yep. You know how to email people? You know how to do Word documents? You know how to put together a newsletter? Are you pretty organized? We need somebody to make some flyers, make some newsletters, those kinds of things. And I'm like, yeah, I can probably do those kinds of things. And then they're like, and we'll make sure you're equipped to do your job. Okay. So it was actually a pretty easy thing to say yes to because I was trying to figure out how to figure out getting into this group. So whenever they talk about that they'll equip you, Carolyn Maxey and I sat at a restaurant and she showed me some things for communications to be able to help me out. She was the president of the organization. Help me out with that to be able to get my footing in my first conference position. These types of trainings also oftentimes happen at the district level. Absolutely, conference level as well. So at the district level, if you're sitting out there and you're like, how do I do this? At the district level, we have an event in November that the district officers get trained at. The conference officer will train the district officers from the 10 districts. That's coming up next month. So next month's new district officers get trained by the conference officers in those roles. Opportunities exist to be a better leader. Leadership Development Days is one of those. It's one way UMW invests in our leaders at the district and at the conference levels. And I know there are many people in this room that have been to Leadership Development Days for UMW. And that is a great, great learning experience. So I attended Leadership Development Days the first time in November 14, as it literally maybe a month after after being installed as a new officer for the upcoming year. I went to Tempe, Arizona for that, and so I thought I was going to learn how to be a communications coordinator at that. And so I learned about the 13 steps of sustainability. I learned about being just and being green. I made a lot of friends from all over the country. I had fellowship and worship, and I heard presentations from UMW national leaders. And then the last day came, and I'm like, but nobody's taught me how to put together the newsletter. Can someone help me with that? It was about the big picture. It was about leadership and creating leaders and how UMW cultivates leaders. And what part of the way of becoming a leader within UMW is understanding what UMW does at the national level, at the worldwide level as well. And that's what Leadership Development Days was for me, was to know that what's happening inside my church was a pretty amazing thing, that there was like something much, much bigger and bigger and bigger going on all across the world with this UMW group. So I served for years as UMW Conference Communications Coordinator, and I know some of you are out there going, but it's a 2-year term. Well, I got released 1 year early on good behavior. I wasn't expected to fulfill my final year in office because they promoted me to be vice president. So yeah, that was good behavior, right? That's how they reward you. But in that 2 to 3 years of being the conference communications coordinator, I had been invited to most of the districts throughout the state to do presentations about maternal and child health. And that wasn't because I had the hat on as a communications coordinator. It was because of my background that equipped me to be able to speak to that topic that was very near and dear to my heart. The health of women across our state and the health of babies across our state. My healthcare background moved that forward. And so it wasn't just about the UMW piece, but wasn't it awesome that UMW had a national agenda for maternal and child health that spoke to my heart and put me in a position to be able to present that topic at many district events. 2018, I went to Assembly in Columbus, Ohio, and I got to travel there with my friend Kathy White and her granddaughter Kennedy, who loves UMW very much. Most people have met Kennedy, and she's a rising star. And I get to be an honorary auntie because I refuse to let her call me grandma. And so, technically she could be my granddaughter, but I'm like, no, I'm your auntie. I'm your UMW auntie. So the giving continues. She's at Mission U, whenever we go to Mission U. Those are wonderful ways. I know many people in this room have shown her kindness and interest and want to know how life is treating her. Every time you see her and you engage with her, we're just fanning that flame a little bit more and a little bit more. And she's going to be an amazing young lady. She already is. I know others that went to Assembly that were veterans of going to Assembly and other new folks, like Liz. Yes, Liz was new as well. And many of us first timers at that one. So like I said, women believed in me, trusted me, encouraged me, helped me be successful in my role, but also in life. And it wasn't, we're training you to do these things for UMW. It was, we're training you to be a leader. And that crosses over to other areas of life. The UMW ladies loved me, laughed with me, cried with me, and yes, sometimes simply tolerated me. I know that. Many of us in this room have benefited from friendships, mentorship, love, trust, prayers. And over the last 5 years as a conference officer, I've learned a lot. Those leadership team meetings, wow. You see a lot of loving. You see a lot of people being transparent. You see a lot of difficult conversations happening in that space with your other leaders. You also see women challenging themselves and challenging others to make difficult decisions, to set personal agendas aside to do what's best for the whole and for most, but then also to speak up for maybe the people who may be overlooked, easily overlooked. It's a safe space to be able to be a leader and to be able to offer that information to people. So, UMW is a place where you can find your voice, and you can grow and you can learn. You can be given resources, or you can seek resources to equip yourself and others to be the best United Methodist woman in and out of the church. They don't ask you to be perfect, thank goodness. They don't expect you to mimic someone else, and I thought Kathy's words of, just, you get to be Kathy. You get to be Felicia. I mean, that's a huge gift to give people. You get to be you, your gifts, talents, and things like that. Of course, the other sides also come in, but you get to be you. You also learn about grace a lot, and giving it to yourself and giving it to others. But sometimes that giving it to yourself part is even harder than giving it to others. And people are there to support you. So I love that idea of teaching people to be leaders, absolutely. Emboldening them for your organization is pretty amazing as well. But it does carry over to other organizations people are involved in, other areas of life, your professional life, your relationships with your family, all of that. So United Methodist Women, you are cultivating leaders whether you know you are or not. Everything you're doing, people are watching. Absolutely. And there are times where this can be very attractive. And I think our approach is to keep that attractive and to show that interest and to get to know people and to share that. Being bold, teaching people to take risks, and teaching people to speak up. And I appreciate that very much. So, ladies, 150 years, you all look great, by the way. You guys look great. So 150 years, and I hope many, many, many more to go. And I hope many more emboldened women to speak up and to be bold. Thank you.